Hello guys, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the session today. Hope you all can hear me.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So let us start the session, guys. So if you remember, in our previous sessions, we have seen the basic concepts related. I have told you about the course curriculum, and I've also told you about what are the topics that we are going to cover. And after that, we have seen what is. I would like to go there. So why we need the cloud platforms? And I think if you guys remember, so we have seen all of these things, why we need the cloud platform and what is the difference between the traditional systems as well as cloud, we have seen. And after that, I have told you about what is Google Cloud Platform. Google Cloud Platform is a one of the cloud provider which provides you the cloud computing services for the organizations so that the organizations can use these services for deploying their applications or building their applications and scaling their applications in the cloud. And Google Cloud Platform is reliable and scalable, and it is providing you plenty of services such as compute services, identity and security services, management tools, networking services, big data services. All of these services it is providing, right? And we have seen all of these things as well. And today I am going to talk about, sir, we have a plenty of these services. If I wanted to interact with these services, what are the interfaces available and how to interact with these services? One by one, let us try to understand. Did I tell you about this concept, guys, how to interact with the GCP?
In console
Okay,
and one is HDK and one is the cloud section.
I think we have covered it, right?
Yes.
Yes. So in our previous sessions also we have seen how to interact with these services. One was console, cloud shell, cloud SDK, and API and third-party tools. Console is a user interface tool. It is a web-based graphical user interface tool to interact with the GCP services. And the next one is Cloud Shell, which is a command line interface, web-based command line interface to interact with the GCP services. Cloud Shell has two types. One is Cloud Shell Terminal and Cloud Shell Editor also. And SDK also we have seen. One more is Cloud SDK, where it is a software development kit which is local based. So we can able to install the SDK on top of your local machine, and you can able to interact with the GCP services from this SDK also. And there are third-party tools also there where we call it as external tools. Sometimes if you wanted to interact with the GCP services via external tools also, you can able to do that. Okay, so all of these things I think we have seen in our previous sessions. Okay, so I have also told you the console walkthrough as well. And today we are going to see one more topic, that is GCP locations, guys. Okay, so let us try to understand what is GCP locations and what is regions, what is zones, and what is the importance of the regions and zones. So we are going to understand in today's session. Okay, so starting with the GCP locations. Assume that Google is having a plenty of infrastructure. Okay, so if you think that this is Google's infrastructure, Google has divided its entire infrastructure into 5 locations. So these are the 5 locations, guys. These locations are further divided into regions. These regions are further divided into zones. Okay, so this is how entire Google's infrastructure was distributed and divided into 5 locations. So that means you have the resources or the infrastructure, nothing but data centers are also available in the North America, and you have a few resources in the South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Each location is divided into regions. Each region is further divided into zones. So this is how Google has total 5 locations. GCP has total 5 locations, 37 regions so far, 112 zones, and it has 187 network edge locations, and it is available in almost 200 plus countries. Okay, so the entire GCP's resources are, you can also call it as a GCP's data centers are available in 5 locations, and these 5 locations are further divided into regions. These regions are further divided into zones. Okay, so if you can think, if you can look at here, this is a world map where, so this is our North America, total 5 locations as I told you, right? So this is South America, this is Europe, this is Asia, and this is Australia. So total 5 locations are there. So Google has its own, Google has divided its entire infrastructure into 5 locations: North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. These locations are further divided into regions. Whatever you see a blue dot, right? Each blue dot is representing a one more region inside a location. So we call it as a region, guys. So the locations are divided into regions. Now each region is further divided into zones that you may not be able to see it here. Okay, so this is how it is. Why, sir? Why they have to do it? So it's so that if the GCP resources are only available in one location, the people from the all over the world connecting it to that location is very hard, so that they may not be able to use the GCP resources. That's where the GCP is going to lose. Going to have a huge loss in terms of the market. So that is the reason Google has divided its entire infrastructure into this many locations, so that each and every company, each and every user can able to access the GCP resources throughout the world. So that is the main intention, so that these resources are highly available and easily accessible within the GCP's data center throughout the world at any location. So that is the main intention of dividing these locations, infrastructure into locations, locations into regions and zones. Okay. Look at here. In a simple words, GCP is organized into regions and zones. Each region is a collection of zones. The regions are available in Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. Okay, if you think that this is a globe, you have one of the location. If you take, so assume that this is an entire globe, sir. In a globe, you have 5 locations: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Total 5 locations are there. I'm taking one of the location, that is Europe. I'm taking one of the location is Europe. Europe will be having multiple regions. So that is the reason Europe is a location. It will be called as a multi-regional locations. That means it will be having multiple regions. Okay. So if I take one of the region in Europe, okay, it will be having plenty of the regions, right? So you take one of the region, that is, the name is Europe West 2. You try to look at the nomenclature here. So if you take a globe, you will be having 5 locations. Each location has its own name. Each region in the location is having its own name. So look at here, one of the region is Europe West 2. And each region is a collection of zones, as I told you. You can see here, this particular region is a collection of zones. At least 3 zones will be there, 1, 2, 3. The nomenclature also, you will try to look at it. Europe West 2A, Europe West 2B, Europe West 2C. Okay, so this is how minimum 3 zones will be there, guys. Maximum it can have anything, but minimum 3 zones should be there in each region. So that is how total 5 locations. If you take one of the location, so if I have one more diagram also here I have. So if I take one of the location, the location is divided into regions. You will be having plenty of regions in a location. Each region is a collection of zones. The minimum number of zones is 3. The maximum number of zones are infinite. Okay, most of the times the maximum number of zones are 4. So I am considering a region with 4 zones. So if you think that one of the region I am taking, each region is a collection of zones. You can see here, region 1 is having zone A, zone B, zone C, zone D. As I told you, each region and zone having resources, each zone is connected to the one more zone, and zones are having the resources. Zones are having the resources. That means in each zone, you will be having a data center. So assume that this is a data center. Okay. So this is what we call as a data center. Each zone, we will be having a data center. In the data center, we will be having 2 types of resources. One is physical resources, one more is virtual resources. So that is how each zone is actually having the resources, or nothing but a services, or you can also call it as the infrastructure. Okay, so that is how the division of the resources, guys. If I take here, each location is a collection of regions. Each region is a collection of zones. Zones are connected to the one more zone via high bandwidth network. Each zone will be having the resources. Similar to the zone A, zone B also will have the resources. Zone C also will have the resources, guys. I am not drawing it here, but you try to understand it. Each zone will have its own data center. Inside the data center, it will be having its own resources, such as physical resources as well as virtual resources also it will be having. Okay, so that is how the location is divided into regions, and regions are divided into zones. Zones are having the data center. Each zone will be having a data center. Inside the data center, you will be having virtual resources as well as physical resources. Okay, so that is how it works, guys. So let me gonna tell you the definition wise what is a region and what is a zone. Regions are independent geographic area that consist of zones. Right. It is an independent geographic area in a location which consists of zones. Zones and regions are the logical abstractions of underlying physical resources provided in one or more physical data centers. Okay, so zones and regions are the logical abstractions, guys, that they have done it. But let's not worry about it, how they have done it logically. Let's not worry about it. The main intention is that some resources which are available in the region A may not be available in the region B. And it is done based on the logic that they have done it. Let's not worry about what was the logic and all. Okay, so zones and regions are logical abstractions of underlying physical resources provided in one or more physical data centers. Each region is a connection of one or more data center. As I told you, so if I take a region will be having zones. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. This is Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. Each zone will be having the data center. That means each region will be having one or more data centers. So that is what it means, right? So this is how the regions are consisting of one or more data centers. Why they have done it? Why these regions and zones? GCP regions or zones are designed to provide high availability, low latency for the applications and services deployed in those regions. Why, sir? Why we have to do this one? For example, the main intention you have to understand it. Why we are going to understand these regions and zones? Let me gonna tell you guys. For example, assume that your company wanted to create a new application. Okay, there are two things required for the application. One is code, one more is infrastructure. Okay, you have prepared the code is ready. The infrastructure also they wanted to create it and they wanted to run it. So while creating this infrastructure or while creating this resource, we must select a proper location. When I say location, we must select the region and zone. If you don't select a region or zone, what will happen, sir? Okay, if you don't select a region or zone, what will happen, sir? It's because, so if you don't select a proper region, so try to understand this point. So we have, so assume that this is an entire globe. Here we have North America. Here we have South America. Here we have Europe. Here we have Asia. Here we have Australia. Now, sir, we wanted to create application. We are from Asia. We wanted to create an application. So if you are creating an application, if you don't select a proper region, that's where your application is not utilized by your people. So try to think that, sir, I wanted to create an application. I have prepared the code. Instead of deploying the application or instead of creating the infrastructure, I have created the infrastructure here in the North America region. I have deployed the location here. I have deployed my application here. Okay, so who is using your application? The users of your applications are coming from the Asia. Okay, so when they are accessing your application, they are going to face a lot of latency issues. because they have to all the way connect it from the India to the North America data center, which is your application is actually deployed. And you, while you are connecting to the application, you are going to face a lot of issues, connecting issues. It's because there will be a lot of latency, network lag will be there, and your application is not highly available because you are all the way connecting from the India and you have not selected a proper location while you are deploying your application. So that is where it is going to happen such kind of a things. So whenever you are creating a resource, try to select a proper location. Otherwise, you may lose your business also. No one will use this application now. So the target users are from the Asia. So the target users are from Asia, but you have deployed your application in you have deployed your application in the North America data center. Now connecting it from the all the way, these people trying to connect it to your application, but they are going to face a lot of network issues. Okay, they are going to face a lot of network issues, which they may face latency issues. The application is not highly available. So that is the reason they don't use your application. No one wanted to use an application which is taking a lot of time. So that is the reason. So whenever you are going to create any application or deploy any application, try to select a proper region and zone. So that is the reason GCP locations is one of the important factor. It takes 1 or 2 minutes only selecting a location, but which is one of the important factor that we need to consider while creating an application or while creating a resource. So that is the reason we are talking about this one. Look at here. A region is an independent geographic area that consists of zones. Each zone is and regions are the logical abstraction of underlying physical resources. Each region consists of one or more data centers. Regions are designed to provide the high availability, as I told you here. And regions and zones are designed to provide high availability and low latency for the applications and services deployed in those regions. Okay, so that is the main agenda, guys. So one of the example for the region is US Central One. So US Central One is one of the regions, sir. Similarly, what is a zone? Sir, a zone is a deployment area for Google Cloud resources within a region. So as I told you already, if you guys remember, so zones are the ones having the data center. In the data center, you will be having the resources. Okay, so on top of these resources only, we are going to do the deployments. On top of this data center only, we are going to do the deployment. So that is the reason zones are called as a deployment area. So zones are called as deployment area because each zone is having a data center. On top of the data center only, we are going to do the application deployments. So that is the reason deployments where we are going to do is nothing but that area we are calling it as a deployment area. A zone is called as a deployment area. A zone is also called as a availability zone. Availability zone because it is having what, sir? It is having what? It is having the resources. So that is the reason the resources are available in the zones. So that is the reason zones are also called as the availability zones. Zones are having two names. One is deployment area and one more is availability zones. Deployment area, it is because you are doing the deployments here. Availability zones means you are having the resources available here. So that is the reason zones are having two names. So the second point here mentioned is that a zone is a deployment area for the Google Cloud resources within a region. Yes or no? A zone is a within a region only. It is a deployment area for Google Cloud resources within a region. Zones are physically separate from each other within a region to provide the fault tolerance and resilience. We will see this topic. I mean, we will talk about this for later. But try to understand it. So each zone is connected to the one more zone, and each zone is separated from the one more zone and connected by a high bandwidth network, as I told you already. each zone is separated from the one more zone and connected by a high bandwidth network. We will see why they are having connected with a high bandwidth network in the next few minutes. Okay, so zones are physically separate from each other within a region and they are connected by a high bandwidth network and low latency network. One of the example for the zone in this particular US Central 1 region is US Central 1A. So one more is 1B and one more is 1C. So this particular US Central region is having three zones, 1A, 1B, 1C. Okay, so this is how regions and zones definition wise. A region is an independent geographic area in a location. A zone is a deployment area for the GCP resources within a region. Okay, so we have locations, then we have regions, and then we have zones. Okay, the main importance of why they have divided this much is to provide the resources for each and every individual and company so that their application is going to be highly available and facing only very less latency and less network lag. So that is the main importance of having the regions and zones. Anyone have any questions so far, guys? Does anyone have any questions? Yes, please.
What is the concept of this
Wait a minute, guys.
multi?
Please raise your hand. Okay. If anyone have any questions, please. Yes, Avinash. Yeah, correct. Yes, yes. We can always go to the public documentation and we can find it. So what resources are available in which zone and which region. So that is possible. We can go to the each zone and zone wise we can able to look for the resources. That kind of a public documentation is there. We can go for that. Yes, that's possible. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Navneet.
Yes, sir. What is this multi-regional concept?
Sorry, what is this?
Multi-regional.
Multi-region.
Yes.
Oh, multi-region is nothing but you have a multiple regions in a location. If I take a one
So,
location,
as we have
multiple.
the five location, suppose we pick one location. So one location is further divided into the multi-region, right?
Multiple regions.
Okay. And if we select one region from this multi-region, then this one region having the multiple zones.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So multi-regions and multi-zones. Yes. Okay. So to recap it, guys. Oh, GCP's entire infrastructure is divided into five locations, regions, and zones. Five locations and the five locations are further divided into 37 regions. These regions are further divided into 112 zones as of today. They are going to plan to increase also. So that may happen in the future. For as of today, this is the count for each region and locations and zones wise. And the main importance is to provide the resources for each and every individual. And this is how you can see here. We have North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. And you can also see here, if I take a one location, multiple regions are there. Multiple zones are there connected by a high bandwidth network. Each zone is having the resources. So that's the reason it is called as the availability zones, also called as a deployment area. And region is an independent geographic area in a location. A zone is a deployment area for region. So that is how it is, guys. Now let us try to understand what is the selection criteria. Okay, sir. Now so far I got to know that this is what is region, this is what is zone, and they have designed this kind of an division mainly to provide the high availability and low latency. But can you tell me, sir, what are the selection criteria? Now I wanted to deploy an application. Can you tell me what are the criteria that I have to follow so that I can able to deploy my application with high availability and low latency? Do we have any kind of a selection criteria? Yes. So whenever you wanted to deploy any application in any of the platform, not only in the Google Cloud or but also in any other platform, AWS, Azure also, you have the GCP. I mean, you have the locations concept, regions and zones are available in each and every cloud platform, guys. So these concepts are similar in other cloud platforms also. So that is the reason you have to pay attention here. Now let us try to understand what is the selection criteria. Now I wanted to create an application, sir. Okay. So now I wanted to create an application. Try to understand it. Sir, I am from India. Okay, I am from India. This is my India. And we are one of the company. We wanted to create an application for my Indian users only. My target users are my customers are Indian users. We are planning to create an Indian application. Okay, an application. So we are from a one X company. We wanted to create an application for our Indian users. Okay, you have created the application code and you have to deploy your code. If you try to deploy it all the way in the North America or all the way in the South America, what will happen? Or maybe in the Europe. Can you guys tell me what is happening if you try to, you have created a code. Okay, this is your application code. And if you try to deploy this code in the North America, so that's where your application is available now. So when you deploy your code, your application is running in the North America data center. Now my Indian users has to connect it to all the way from the India to the this application. So what is the problem, guys? Can you guys tell me?
Whole latency will be there.
It's a very simple, right? Assume that, sir, I am from Hyderabad. In a very simple terms, if I have to say, sir, I am from Hyderabad. Okay, I have a bank account in New Delhi. I have a bank account in New Delhi. So instead of creating my bank account in the Hyderabad, so I do not have a bank account in the Hyderabad, but I have a bank account in the New Delhi. So if I wanted to do any kind of a transaction, what I have to do, sir? I have to all the way flew from the Hyderabad to the New Delhi and do a transaction in the bank, and then I have to come back. So now try to understand here the complexity and facing a lot. So if you want to go for like 10 times, you will only go for like 2 times because it's a lot of complexity involved here and you don't want it to go all the time. Okay, so instead, if you wanted to do some kind of a bank transaction, try to create your bank account in one of the bank nearby your location, so that whenever you wanted to visit the bank for the transactions, you can easily do it. Right. So this is what happens in the same. So whenever you wanted to deploy your application, whenever you wanted to deploy your application, try to deploy the application in your own premises or nearby your location. So because GCP is providing you the resources and its infrastructure in all over the world it is providing. Instead of deploying the data center or instead of deploying the resources in the North America data center, try to deploy in a location where which is near to you. Try to deploy it here so that your users can able to easily do that. I mean, they can able to easily deploy their applications and they can able to connect it to the application easily without any network lag. With a very less network lag, they can able to connect it to it, and your application is highly available to them. So this is what is our first point is. Okay, whenever we deploying the resources in the GCP, it is important to consider the proximity of the region or zone to your target users or customers. Okay, so whenever you are deploying the resources, try to deploy your application which is near to your target users. Select a location or select a region or zone which is near to your target users and deploy it there only. Okay, if you are not deploying it based on this condition, what will happen is that you are creating a lot of network lag. A latency is created so that your application is not highly available to them. No one will use your application if they are facing a lot of issues. So that's where you may lose your business also. So that is the reason, try to stick to the point that the very first point says is that whenever we wanted to deploy resources in the GCP, it is important for us to consider the proximity of the region or zone to your target users or the customers. Try to deploy your application near to your target users. That's it. That is what your first point is. Okay. I think hope this makes sense. Similarly, the second point, to deploy fault tolerant applications with high availability and help protect against the unexpected failures, deploy your applications across multiple zones in a region. So what is happening here? Try to look at here. So you have a region. Inside a region, you have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. This is zone 1. This is zone 2. This is zone 3. So we have 3 zones. Okay, whenever you are deploying your application, so sir, I have created a code. My company wanted to create an application, or we wanted to create a resource or anything, whether you wanted to deploy it or create any resource. Or let me take 100 GB of the data, for example. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me go and take in a region. We have zone 1, we have zone 2, we have zone 3. My client gave me 100 GB of the data. My client gave me 100 GB of the data, sir. He is asking me to create a resource in the GCP, and store this data into that particular resource. Store the data into the particular resource. Okay, so that is what here. My client told me that go and store this data, 100 GB of the data by creating a resource in the GCP and store it there. This is what he told me. So what I have done is that I straight away went to the Google Cloud Platform. I selected one of the resource that is GCP, GCS, Google Cloud Storage. I wanted to store the data here. For storing that, we need to create a resource that is bucket. For GCS, we need to create a bucket so that inside the bucket we can store the data. Now, why in the bucket? Why creating this resource? I have selected only this particular zone, only zone 1 selected. While I'm creating the resource, I have selected only one zone. Zone 1 I have selected. And once I have created the resource, I am storing the 100 GB of the data. So this is what I have done. Okay, my client gave me 100 GB of the data. He asked me to create a resource and store the data. So I went to the Google Cloud Platform. I created the resource by selecting the zone 1 only. The zone only, and I stored this data. Now tell me guys, what happens if this particular zone is crashed? Or what happens if this unexpected failure, maybe earthquake or tsunami happened this particular location or nothing but a zone? What happens to your data, sir? If this particular zone is crashed, what happens to your data?
Data will not be available for users.
We will lose the data.
So don't worry about the data. The entire zone itself it is not available. Okay, the entire zone itself it is crashed. So the entire data, whatever you stored, it is lost. You are going to lose the data. So now that's where your client come to you and he asked you the 100 GB of the data and you couldn't able to give it to him because it is lost. Okay, so that's where he's going to escalate you. Okay, so such kind of things may happen. So this is a very simple scenario, but when you are deploying a real-time applications, your application may not be available and your application is used by plenty of the people and they are not going to access your application. So that's where a big problem is created. So whenever you are creating any resource, whether you are storing the data or whether you are deploying something or whether doing some kind of a data processing or you try to do some kind of application deployment, anything, while you are creating a resource, if you select a one location or if you select one single zone, if that zone is crashed, you are going to lose your entire. So that is the reason instead of selecting a one single zone, try to select multiple zones. Try to select multiple zones. So that while creating the resource, you select an option called multi-zones or multi-regions. Okay. Either you select multi-zones or multi-regions. Sorry, I write both the same things. This is regions. Try to understand it. This is regions. Okay, so whenever you are creating a resource, whether it is application or storing the data or doing some other data processing, whatever it is, some cluster you are creating. So whatever it is, try to select multi-zones or multi-regions so that even though that single zone is crashed, you can have your data coming from here. You can have your data available from here. Even though this one is also crashed, you can have the data from this zone. So this is the concept of fault tolerance. Okay, so what is happening, sir? Whenever we are creating a resource, so instead of selecting a one single zone, if you select a one single zone, there is a unexpected failure may happen. So to avoid that unexpected failures, we try to select multi-zones or multi-regions so that your application or your data will be replicated to the multiple regions. Will be replicated to the multiple regions. So this is what happens, guys. Okay, so this is the main intention. The cost may vary for sure. The cost is high compared to the single zone or multi zones. The cost is high, but you are getting an advantage that you are having your data highly available all the time. Even though some crash is happening at one single zone, you still have your data from coming from other zones. So this is what we call as our second point. Okay, so this is what is our second point. So what is our second point says is that to deploy a fault tolerant applications with high availability and help protect against the unexpected failures, deploy your applications across multiple zones in a region or deploy your applications in a multiple regions in a location. So this is what is one of the best technique while you are deploying your application, because we do not know what happens next. We do not know something, some kind of unexpected failure may happen for your application, so that that region may not be available, so that your application is not available. To avoid that unexpected failures, try to deploy your application multi regions or multi zones. So that is the reason when the backend happens is that, as I told you here, they are connected to the network, right? So this is what happens. So zones are really separate from each other within a region to provide the fault tolerant and resilience. So that is what it means. So what happens here is that so you are creating a resource. You are creating a resource. You wanted to create a resource. So when you are creating a resource, what happens is that you select multi-zones. You select a multi-zones. So when you select a multi-zones in the back end, what will happen is that first, that application is created in one zone. That application is created in one zone. Then via high bandwidth network, that will be replicated to the one more zone. Again, via high bandwidth network, it will be replicated to the one more zone. So this is what we call as a replication. So zonal replication via high bandwidth network. Okay, so that why this kind of a system is required, this kind of a mechanism is required, is because to avoid the unexpected failures or to take care of the fault tolerance. If one of the zone is gone, also we can have a one more zone taking care of it. Okay, fault tolerance is that inside each zone you can also have some kind of a resource failure. So that will also be taken care in the fault tolerance. So this is how. So whenever you are creating a resource, try to select the multi zones. If you select only single zone, what will happen, sir? If you select a single zone, do we have the replication?
No, no replication.
So we will not be having any replication. So this is what happens. So if you select a multi-zones, there is a replication between the each zone. So such a kind of a benefit you are going to get it. Similarly, if it is like $100, this will be like $120. So for creating a resource in the single zone, if it is costing $100, creating a resource with the multi zones, it will cost you like $120. You should be aware of it. Your client should aware of it also, because when you get a benefit, you should also pay a lot of, because what they try to do is the intermediate, they are going to do the replication. So for the replication, there are resources required. So that kind of a cost for the resources we need to pay. So that is how multi-zones and single zones works. Hope this is clear. To deploy fault-tolerant applications with high availability and help protect against the unexpected failures, deploy your applications across multiple zones in a region. Okay, so this is how it is. And the third one we are going to see is that yes, Naresh, do you have any question? Do you have any question, Naresh? Okay. So yes. Okay. Okay, no problem. Yeah. Do you have any question, Agar, MB?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes. My question was about since we were talking about an application, I'm supposed that I have an application running on Kubernetes clusters, and this Kubernetes cluster will be deployed in a multiple zone also for fault tolerance.
Correct. That is possible. Yes. For fault tolerance, you can do that. So while you are creating the cluster, so you
Yes.
can let me going to show you. While you are creating a cluster, what you can do is that so you go to the Google Cloud platform, you go to the Kubernetes cluster. So we will be creating in, and you will come to know what is this one on. But while you are creating this Kubernetes cluster, let me going to show you. So when you click on create, and you switch to the cluster mode. Okay, you select here. You want a zonal or regional. Sir, if you select regional, so you can select a multi. So when you select a regional, by default, it is multi-zones. If you select only zone, it will be only having, I mean, that means it is only single zone. So that means US Central 1C is a single zone your cluster is available in. But when you select a regional, you see here the cost 176 for single zone. For regional, 383. It almost 3 times.
Okay.
So that's how. So regional means what is in a region. For example, if I take one US Central 1, that means it is having 3 zones: US Central 1A, 1B, and 1C. So what is happening? So when you select a cluster, the cluster is replicated to these 3 zones. That means your cluster is highly available. Even though one of the zone is gone, you have your cluster from other zones connected. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So that's how it works. Yeah. Any other questions, anyone? Okay. So this is what is first point and second point. So let us look at the third point. It is also essential to understand the pricing and availability of the services across different regions and zones as they may vary. I told you about this point if you guys remember. It is also essential to understand the pricing and availability of the resources or services across the different regions and zones as they may vary. So what is they are trying to say is that in one region, region 1, region 2, if I have one resource here, for example, some virtual machine, I may not be able to have the same virtual machine available here. If it is available here, if I have one virtual machine here and same virtual machine is available here, if it is $100 here, it may be different here. That is what is your thought point says. Sorry. Look at here your thought point. It is essential to understand the pricing and availability of the resources across different regions and zones as they may vary. We need to understand the availability and pricing both. So it may be available or may not be available. You first select the availability, then you select the cost. Okay, because you look at the cost, it may vary, cost may vary, the availability of the resource may also vary. So this is what happens. This is what the second point says. Try to look at here. For example, I have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. So I wanted to create one virtual machine so that my application can be deployed here. My client says is that we have a code. We wanted to create a virtual machine. On top of the virtual machine, we wanted to deploy our application. So to do that, what we need to do, sir? The code is ready. And what we need to do now?
We need a virtual machine for the
We
deployment.
need to create this virtual machine resource. We need to create this resource. So I am calling here after it as the resource. So we need to create this resource. So what I will do, first we need to think about what, sir, whenever we are deploying as per the third point, what is the first thing that we need to think about it?
We need to select the reason.
As our third point says, we need to think about the availability first. And then this is what is our third point says. Whenever you are deploying your resource, it is essential to understand the availability and pricing of the resources because it may vary across the regions or zones. Okay, so look at here. We need to create a virtual machine resource. That resource may not be available here. It may be available here. It may be available here. So as per the availability, that resource is not available in the zone 1 and zone 2 and zone 3. Where we can deploy it here, sir, now. Where to deploy it?
Zone 2 and zone 3.
We can only deploy in the zone 2 and zone 3 because zone 1 is not available. Now look at the cost. Now in the zone 2, it is having $90. In zone 3, it is $75 only. Where we have to deploy it, sir?
Zone 3.
So this is how whenever you are deploying your resources, we need to consider the availability and pricing both. The availability may vary from zone to zone or region to region. The pricing may vary from region to region and zone to zone. So you need to properly come up with a plan where to deploy it based on the availability and pricing. Okay, so this is how in this scenario I wanted to deploy it in the zone 3 because it is one of the cost effective solution. Okay, so this is how our third point says. Okay, so let us recap each point one by one. So what is our first point says is that whenever we deploying a resources in the GCP, important to consider the proximity of the region or zone to your target users or the customers. Try to deploy your resources near to your target users. That's it, first point. To avoid the unexpected failures, try to deploy your application in multi-regions or multi-zones. Second point. Try to understand the pricing and availability of the resources because it may vary from region to region or zone to zone. That is your third point. Okay, so this is how regions and zones, this is the selection criteria, guys. So whenever you wanted to deploy anything, try to come up with a proper selection criteria. Okay, follow these three methods while you are deploying a solution. While you are deploying a solution, follow these things so that you can able to deploy your solutions easily and with a high availability and low latency. The note, we have a final note for the GCP locations. So by understanding the GCP regions and zones, can you guys tell me what you got to know? So if you understand the GCP regions and zones, can you guys tell me what you have learned so far?
The GCP has locations. Inside locations, we have regions. Inside regions, we have zones.
Yeah.
And zones are availability zones. In zones, we have the data centers where the application is deployed.
So whenever we wanted to see, by understanding the GCP regions and zones, now the knowledge that you have is very helpful whenever you wanted to do a deployment. Whenever you wanted to do a deployment, selecting a proper location, region or zone is very much important. Now you got to know that point. So it allows the organizations to design and deploy their applications and services with a high availability, resilience and optimal performance by selecting what, sir? By selecting a proper location, nothing but a region or zone. By selecting a proper region and zone, you can able to deploy your applications with the high availability and optimal performance. It also helps meet data compliance requirements and enables effective disaster recovery strategies. Okay, so this is what is that the moral of the story for this GCP locations is this one, that by learning the GCP regions and zones, you can able to deploy your application with the high availability, resilience, and optimal performance by selecting a proper region and zone. Okay, so it also helps meet the data compliance requirements and enables effective disaster recovery strategies as well. So this is what is GCP regions and zones case. Anyone have any questions? Do we have any questions, guys? Yes, Avinash.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question.
Correct, correct, correct. So what happens is that whenever you are storing some 100 GB of the data, because of the data replication within the zones, your data is available in here also your data is available, here also your data is available, here also your data is available. If your data is connected to one application, if this is down, automatically your application can able to connect it to this zone too. So that is how it happens in the backend automatically. Okay. Yes, automatically. We don't need to worry about it. Say everything is taken automatically. Yes. So that's the reason we call it as these are all the managed services by the GCP. So all the headache is taken care by the GCP itself. It's your choice, right? So, sir, now I don't want the Google Cloud Platform to take care of it. So, first I will deploy so this is what you can do. For example, you can go to this application. First, I will create a one cluster in the Kubernetes cluster in the one zone. You click on create. And after that, you again come here, you click on create for the next zone. You again come here, again click on create for the next zone. So you can also create your multiple zones, right? It's your wish. If you don't want Google Cloud Platform to take care of multi-regions, you create it. So you have to take care of the headache now. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Anyone have any other question? I see. Yes, Rohan. Rohan. Yes. Okay. Anyone can access it. Anyone can access it. The only problem is that, so if it is within those nearby people, they can access it very faster. But they are who are away from the location can be accessed, but with the latencies. Yeah, with the latency, they are going to access. Yes, so that's how it happens. Yeah. Okay. Anyone have any questions, guys?
Sir, the person who is asking the question from you, we are not able to hear
Yes,
that
Navneet.
question
Yes,
actually.
Navneet. Yeah.
Because we are only able to hear your.
Sorry, Navneet. What you are saying? Sorry.
We are able to hear only the answer from your side
Yes,
only.
yes. So they are in one more session, guys. We are having two sessions at the same time. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Naresh. Multiple location, it's your choice. You wanted to take care of the cost. Yeah, of course, why can't? Okay. You see here, I'm going to click on create. When I click on create, so click on here. It is one US central, one means US. So I don't want it to go for US, sir. I will go for Europe. So that is one more location itself. It is right. And you select Asia. It's a different locations. No, you can't. At a time, it is not possible. Two locations. If you wanted to do it, you create it here, and again you come be here. Again, you select one more region. One more region. So this is again you selected Asia, and one more is Europe. So your application is available in two locations. So that's how you manage. Google is able to manage multi regions and multi zones, but not multi locations. Okay. Yeah. Automatically it goes. It totally depends on the service you are using. So for this Kubernetes cluster, it is not having a multi-regional capability because you can able to see it here, right? It is having a zonal and regional capability only. So it depends on the resource that you are using. So for your resource, you can go for single zone or multi zones, nothing but a regional and zonal. You're not going to the multi-regional, so that is not possible here. But for Google Cloud Storage is there. We have one more service, that is Google Cloud Storage. So what is Google Cloud Storage? It supports multi-regional also. That means your data is available in multiple regions also, in multiple zones as well as multiple regions also. While you're creating a bucket, you can select here. So here you can select a multi-region, dual regions, or single region. Okay. It's when you select a multi-regions, that means your data is replicated to the multiple regions. If one of the region is gone, you have your data coming from one more region. So that's how it happens here. Yes, if you go to the AWS also, you have the same thing. They call it as a cross regions. Okay, it's the same thing. You call it as a multi-region there. You call it as a cross regions. Yeah. Yes. 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 Any other questions, guys? Okay. So
Sir, one question.
yes, please, Navneet.
Sir, suppose I want to deploy an application and I select a region, say US Central 1, and we select the zone called US Central 1A and US Central 1B, and even 1C also. So suppose we have selected the three zone. So does it mean that when the application is up at the similar time at all the three zones, the application will be running simultaneously?
So that's what happens. So all the resources required for your application to run is already replicated to the multiple zones. Okay.
So
Okay.
all are
Whatever the resource.
running and available at the same time, or even only one, even only when a zone is down, then only the other zone app
No,
will
no,
work.
not like that. So it happens, it has its own mechanism. So how it works is that so the resources required for your application to run will be replicated to the multiple zones at the same time. It will be available in all the zones. So the end mechanism at the back end is that if one of the zone goes gone and your application is running there, and automatically the one more application will be created at the back end in a very few minutes because all the resources are already replicated in a one more zone. You can think of like both our applications are running at the same time in the zones. You can think of like that. Yes,
Okay.
your
So
application
if
is running in
any,
three zones at the same time.
okay, so when the user try to access the application, the request will go only at one zone, or it will divert to the
It
zone
is not.
one.
I mean, we are not worried about that, right? So as long as our application is able to run it. Okay, so it's everything is these are managed services. We do not know which zone the application is connected to the which zone. We are not worried about, and we do not know that also. When you are having working with the managed services, you don't have the flexibility to select which zone we are getting the data from. Okay, you do not have that flexibility. But in the back end, there are applications running in the zones, and you can able to connect it to. Even one of the traffic on one zone is higher, it will be connected to the one more zone via load balancer. So there are plenty of mechanism behind this. It's not what we speak, right? But there is a plenty of other mechanism also happens at the back end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So this is how it works, guys. So for every service, if I wanted to create a resource, I'll come here. So for example, if I wanted to work with a compute engine, I wanted to create a virtual machine, sir. So for even you wanted to create a virtual machine, you click on create instance. And you need to select a region and zone. You need to select a region and zone, which region we wanted to create this particular instance. So you come here, you select a where we wanted to select it. For it happens for the virtual machines, whatever the resource you are going to create it. Maybe I have already told you for the Kubernetes cluster as well as cloud storage. Also, I have told you, and tomorrow you wanted to work with the Cloud Run or App Engine, for example. So for App Engine also, the scenario is same. For every resource you wanted to create it, we must select the, what's wrong? Okay. Create an application. Yeah. So when you click on create an application, it is asking you select the region where you wanted to create your app engine. So you select a region. So for every resource you go, we must select a region. Okay. Without the region or zone, you can't create any resource. Okay. You can come here and you can select that also. This is also fine. Okay. So this is how it works for every region and zone. Sorry, every application, we must select that particular region and zone. So this is how you are going to work with, whenever you wanted to create a resource, we must select this one. So we must understand the GCP locations. And if you are going for a certification also, at least 1 or 2 questions from this particular GCP locations concept also you are going to get. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions, anyone? Okay. This is it for today, guys. I'm going to stop here the session for today. And if you guys have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, for those people who wanted to create a free tier account, so I told you, right, I will try to tell you how to create an account, right? So I will tell you guys, if you wanted to create a free tier account, so for those people who wanted to create an account, we need to have 2 things, guys. We need to have a Google account and we need to have a debit card or credit card with 2 rupees. First, you go to this website and you enter your credentials such as email and password. If you do not have an email and password, you can also create a dummy account also you can create it. And we select only 2 steps are there. We select the country and organization need, then the payment method only. Once you completed the transaction, you will be able to see your in a billing section, your account is activated. So I'm going to paste this link. I have created a video, guys. I'm going to paste this in the chat. So if you wanted to create a free tier account, guys, what you have to do is that you go to this link. This link is having an access to all, you all have the access to this link. If you wanted to create a free tier account, what to do? You go to this link and try to create it. Okay. Yes, guys. Okay, try to create a free tier account. It's very simple, hardly 5 minutes. Hardly 5 minutes it will take, not more than that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you all. Any questions, anyone?
Sir, the course content is enough for the cloud engineer
Yes.
certification.
This course contains enough for the cloud engineers as well as cloud DevOps engineers also.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you all. Have a great day. We will meet maybe tomorrow. Yes. Okay, guys. Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye bye. We'll meet tomorrow.